And we are live. Getting logged on here. Turned on. Tag friends. Shared a group. Oh. Guess I could share it. We'll wait. It's fine. Okay. What is up? We are getting our live set up here. There we go. All right. There we go. All right. What's up, everybody? Ryan Buckley's turning in. All right. Looks like we got live. I know there's a little bit of a lag. I see some people jumping in. I got some super sick, great news to share. Some updates that I get lots of questions from. So I'm going to go through some of those tonight. What's up, Ryan? Merry Christmas. Good to see you guys. What's up, Brian? What's up, John? Hold it. What's up, Heath? So, as everybody's dialing in tonight, I just want to give a shout out real quick. As everybody knows, Matt Holtz, I own an off-road shop called High Society Off-Road, and I drive the Hyperactive Rock Bouncer in the Southern Rock Racing Series. Tonight, I wanted to kind of go to live. I get a lot of the same questions over and over from a lot of people at races. I also get them to all my social media stuff, and I've been getting a lot of the same questions this year, and I kind of wanted to answer a couple of them. So I mainly get two main questions is like, how did I get started into off-road stuff? Or how did I get started in rock bouncing? How did I get started into that? And I kind of wanted to just talk a little bit about it tonight and kind of cover a couple quick things. And mainly I get it from like two groups of people. One is people that are like very fascinated with the fact that we take these super normal, great vehicles that run and drive perfect, and we put thousands of dollars worth of stuff on them, and we go out and tear them up beyond belief. So obviously people just are totally fascinated with that. So a lot of people are like, how did you get into that? What is it like? They're pretty fascinated about the off-road community and just off-roading in general, whether it be on four-wheelers, side-by-sides, Jeeps, early Broncos, monster trucks, regardless of what it is, they're totally fascinated by it. And so that's one group of the people that I get that question from. And the second group of people I get that question from is people who want to get into off-roading or want to get into rock bouncing or get into some of the off-road stuff. And I feel like this is a good enough time to do a video before we start the 2020 race season. I want to kind of cover some of the stuff and hopefully encourage some others out there. Kind of explain kind of some of the reasons I got into off-roading and then kind of explain how you can get into off-roading, whether it be at a club level or whether it be at a nationwide race program. So as most of you know, my dad, some of you know local people, my dad's Dave Holt. He owned Holt's Auto Sales. I grew up as a son of a car dealer, as I like to say. And we grew up around cars, and trucks were our life. My whole family talked about cars. We still do. My mother would get upset as we were younger, yelling us about, talking about cars all the time. So we started out when I was like 2 and 3 riding go-karts. We had four-wheelers. We got, I have a picture of our four-wheelers wedged underneath the Christmas tree. We got four-wheelers when we were 3 and 4. Then we started riding dirt bikes when we were later years. We used to go to Flat River, Missouri. We started going to all kinds of off-road parks. We had some property. When I became a teenager, we had Surrey Motocross. We had some property down the road from our house we go to, actually called The Property. It's closed now, but I made a lot of good friends there. We had a good time. A lot of my early off-road community gatherings started there, so that was pretty awesome. My first ever off-road vehicle was a 1971 Ford Bronco I got for my 16th birthday. So I'm very, very partial to the early Broncos. I still have that exact Bronco to this day. So I'm super geeked about that. So that was kind of my first real hardcore off-road rig, and it's undergone the knife several times. It's been a lot of fun over the years. We've took it out. We've got stuck. It was a pile of junk when I first got it. It was like the transmission was in the back, and it took me years to even get it running. It was on the grade of like a kitty litter type device. It was pretty rough. It was pretty sketchy. It was a big hunk of junk before that was cool. Nowadays it's all cool if you ride around in junk. Back then it was just a piece of junk. And again, it's gone under the knife several times. It's a lot of fun. And we got stuck in it. We broke down in it. One time my brother had 2 broken legs. We left him in the back seat. Me and my buddy went and walked and found somebody to come pull us out after we got stuck. So had a lot of good memories in that with a lot of good friends. Next, I upgraded to an 89 Wrangler, which I had for a long time. It was more of a daily driver, but I did wheel it a little bit. I had a 97 Chevy Blazer. We wheeled it for a little bit. We did mud drags. We did a lot of off-road stuff. we had, drag cars. We had, might have been a car lot, so we always had tons of cars around us. I've driven everything from a Ferrari to a Yugo, which is a car made in Yugoslavia. Not a real popular car. And I've driven every make and model. You always see the guys with the shirts that said, I'd rather be broke down in a Ford than push a Chevy, or I'd rather push a Chevy than drive a Ford. And you think that until it's really hot and you're broke down, and then you'll take anything that comes along with air conditioning. So I've been broke down at about every make and model there is. They all have their good and bad. They're all a lot of fun. And I guess, like I said, we did, drag racing, we did crotch rockets, we did a little bit of all of that. And probably by far, the thing I enjoyed the most was off-roading. Whether it be a four-wheeler, whether it be dirt bike, trucks was obviously the thing that I kind of aired to. And all my buddies get together in their Jeeps, and we all get together and hang out, and somebody gets stuck, and we all get out and talk and four-wheel. And that was probably something I enjoyed more than going to a drag strip, or more than some of the other things where it wasn't necessarily as close a community. You really learn to depend on guys when you're, buried deep in a mud hole. Back in the old days, if you had a 32 or a 35-inch tire, you're kind of a big deal. And 44-inch tires were like the big dogs. And nowadays there's guys, running 2.5 tons with, 6-foot tractor tires, 1,600 horsepower blazing through mud holes. So, it's not, obviously what it is now. It's not what it was then. So I did that for a long time. And when I really started to get serious with it, one time, a bunch of my buddies were all going out, my brother and some friends, and we were all going out to see a movie. And I stayed home and worked on my truck so I could go full on the next day at a big off-road event. And that was the time that I kind of started getting serious about, I kind of knew okay, this is kind of a big deal. This is going to be something someday. And I really started to get serious about it versus just being a hobby that I enjoy doing. And that's when it kind of started to change from being just a little fun time hobby to kind of getting serious about it. And I started working on other people's rigs, and then I said, hey, you can make some money in this. Reba McEntire once said, find something you love to do, and then find somebody dumb enough to pay you to do it. And so I took that philosophy and started High Society Off-Road and became an off-road shop, and it really kind of took off, and obviously that's something I really enjoy doing, and obviously we can do everything from, lift kits to full tube chassis stuff. So that's kind of where the Rock Bouncer came into play. We had been doing mud drags for a while, and they were a lot of fun, mud bogs, and kind of doing some kind of, pretty similar obstacle course type stuff. And we were looking, we'd been doing that, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted something to advertise my business better. I wanted a way to kind of showcase what I could do. And I was looking to either build a Rock Bouncer or some kind of tube chassis vehicle, whether it be a buggy, Ultra 4, Rock Bouncer, or the other side of that was I was going to build a mega truck. One of the ways I was going to kind of showcase what I could do and kind of demonstrate my talent. And that was right around 2015, 2016. So I think for my 2017 goal was to build some kind of tube chassis vehicle. And at that point, this friend of a friend posted on there, hey, I'm looking to put a rock bouncing team together. Anybody interested? Sean Cross is who it was, out of Texas. He owned a buggy at that time he had just finished building called Joe Dirt. And I was totally enamored by that. I'm like, absolutely. So I emailed him and messaged him, talked to him a little bit, and a couple of the guys hopped out, and we kind of formed a group, and we talked about it a bunch, and kind of narrowed it down to 3 of us that were really serious about doing it financially. And that was kind of the biggest thing, is we all wanted to kind of do it and really enjoy it, have a lot of fun with it, but we all couldn't necessarily do it full time. If you do a 10-race series, that's obviously financially, it's very, very committing, as well as time-wise. And we all couldn't do that completely. So we all kind of just jumped in and did it as a team. And right before we got ready, the day before the registration was due, the guy that was our third guy backed out and was like, yeah, I can't do it. Sorry, bro. So I called my brother the night before registration was due. I was like, bro, do you want to be on a rock bouncing team? Yes or no? I need to know now. I need $1,000. And he's like, so where are you at? So he came and met me. We talked about it. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty interested. He's like, let me kind of talk. I'm going to talk to my wife, and I'll call you in a little while. So an hour later, I got a call from him. Hey, yeah, sure, let's do this. Heck with it, let's do this, let's party. So put a rock bouncing team together. Joe Dirt was a buggy, me, my brother, Nate Holt, Sean Cross, put the team together. It was an absolute blast. I ended up buying the buggy from Sean, and we made some upgrades to the season that made it a little more competitive. It was a little bit heavy. She was a big girl. We ran a 460 big block on nitrous, and it did pretty well. Obviously, we could use some more power, and it Probably could have used a little bit of a diet, but it did great. And I'm so thankful to Sean Cross for giving me and my brother that opportunity. That is what actually got me in the door of doing a nationwide off-road racing series, and it really meant a lot to me that he was willing to be like, yeah, hey, by the way, here, in the beginning he was basically just saying, hey, yeah, you can drive my rig, whatever, let's do it. So I'm very thankful to him for that. And obviously there's some other people along the way that really helped me out in the off-road world and doors that have opened up, whether it be sponsorship or people that are part of the series, some of the off-road people I race with, some people that are really have really done some amazing things. So huge shout out to Sean Cross and all the sponsors that teamed up with us that year. Clay Carter for Carter Machine and Fab. There's 2 or 3 guys that Sean knew that kind of got us hooked up and stuff. We had a couple local guys here. I called a ton of people to get my very first sponsorship. I thought it was going to be a super easy thing. Like once you do sponsorship, you just call them, they just hand you big bags of cash. That was not the case. That was not the case at all. I called 76 people before I got my first sponsorship, and it was Tice Mahana with Tice Mahana Excavating, and he was just thrilled to death to do it, and I was super geeked. And that kind of kicked off the race team. It was super awesome. We had a blast that year. I ended up selling it back to Sean. He turned around and sold it to a guy. He bought it back and then turned it into the Pennywise buggy. And he just took first at a Pro Rock event or an Outlaw Series race not that long ago. So shout out to him for rocking that out. And that kind of kicked off the racing series in 2017. We raced that. 2018, I built my own rock bouncer called Hyperactive. It's a teal and white rock bouncer that I'm sure you guys have seen. We've made some slow changes throughout the year. We've got a little bit better. We've made some changes in 2018 and then obviously in 2019. I have some pretty exciting changes coming up, which I've already talked about a couple. We've already dropped one to the PRI show. We teamed up with Jet Hot. They're a coating company. They coat exhaust, do some powder coating type stuff. And so we teamed up with them, and they're doing our full exhaust system, which we're super geeked about. And we have some other sponsors we teamed up, which we'll be announcing soon once the ink's dry. We will be at King of Hammers, and I have some more cool news to drop about that later, which we'll drop probably right after the first of the year. So that's pretty cool. And it was, but the racing part of it was nice because it gave me a platform to kind of showcase my business. And obviously it wasn't always super great. There's some people that know this and some people don't. I know that Clyde's talked about it one time. There was times we had to give plasma to get enough gas money to get to the race. Like, that's how tight our budget was. So if you're one of the people that come out and say, hey, how can I do this? How can I get into off-roading? How can I get into a rock bouncing community? How can I start racing like you guys? I have a lot of people come, hey, I wish I was a millionaire like you guys. We are not millionaires. Most of us run a very tight budget, and we do make season changes throughout the season or in the off season. You don't have to start out with a $50,000 rock bouncer or a $250,000 rock bouncer. Obviously there's those guys out there, and that is awesome. And I love racing against them, and they're super great guys. And I love the guys that are constantly changing their buggy or constantly making better. I know for those of you who haven't seen Instagram, Timmy Cameron just dropped his new a spy picture of his chassis. It's obviously a 4-link or an independent front suspension, so we're super geeked to see that. So it's pretty exciting to see where next year will take us. Obviously we got some more updates for 2020 coming, so we're super geeked about that. But you don't have to start out with the biggest, baddest, most awesome rig. And even if you had it, you probably still wouldn't be that top tier status. My very first Southern Rock Racing Series I ever raced in, I went about 30 feet and rolled over. It was not pretty at all. It was probably embarrassing to say the least. And then the second course I didn't even complete. So it wasn't a beautiful thing. You can go back and watch it. It's some of the guys, Mad Ram 11. I know some of the guys out there videotape it. It's not real pretty, but it's pretty awesome. You can start out with just a cheap rig if you're wanting to get into off-roading. Start out with a cheap rig. You can, start out with a Jeep Cherokee or a Geo Tracker, or go find any rig that is cheap, $300 beater with a heater. Go out and you can have an absolute blast with it. I have a buddy who has a Geo Tracker that we took to King of Hammers this year, and we probably put a couple 100 miles on it at King of Hammers. Yes, I assure you, we got a lot of looks with a Geo Tracker at King of Hammers. You got $500,000 rigs with independent front and rear suspension passing us, and we're in a $395 Geo Tracker rolling through King of Hammers. We got a lot of looks, I promise you. Now it does have some cool stuff. It has a 4-on case. It's got a lift kit. We got some 29.5-inch tires on there, But it was a great run-on vehicle. It had heat, it had air. We had a blast with it. It was so much fun. And so you don't have to have the biggest, baddest rigs out there. You can just start out going out wheeling with a cheap beater with a heater. Again, if you find some local guys, they can help get you set up. Obviously, you can call me. I can try to hook you up with somebody or get on Craigslist, eBay. Facebook Marketplace is great now with everybody sharing stuff. And that can get you in the off-road game as far as four-wheeling and getting out there having fun. If you want into the racing side, that is a little bit more expensive. But again, you can find local race circuits that are just as cheap and easy to get into as some of the big stuff. Or you can be part of a race team, kind of like I did my very first season. Very first season I was part of a race team. You may not have enough money to buy a buggy or pay the entry fee. It was about $1,000 a person for entry fee as we did as a team. Plus, it was several, at least $1,000 or several $1,000s every time we went to a race for food and fuel and lodging and depending on what we were doing with. And so you don't have to have that. You can also go volunteer at a team. Call one of the race teams. There's a ton of Ultra 4 guys out there. There's a ton of rock bouncing guys out there. If your goal is to be, it doesn't even matter if you're into, you could be in a monster trucks. That's still an off-road thing. You can do desert racing. Find a team that's close to you or find the closest one to you and say, hey, I want to get involved. I want to volunteer. I want to come out. I want to help change tires or whatever. They can teach you how to get involved with off-road stuff. You can be part of their team, and you can learn a lot of great knowledge without ever spending a dime. And most of them will say, if you're going to come out and help and you're going to spend your own dime, most of them will say, hey, I'll give you some t-shirts, I'll give you a sweatshirt, I'll help hook you up with some cool gear, and a lot of times they'll help show you some love, and they'll help teach you some stuff, and it's a great way to make contacts. So that's a cool thing. And the off-road community is pretty awesome. We'll try to take care of people as far as helping out and trying to help. If you're really serious about it, we will try to help get you into either a race rig or get you into a foiling vehicle, or at least just help you out and teach you some stuff. We can learn that way someday when you are financially stable enough to buy your own rock bouncer or build one. We can see if we can't hook you up. So that's kind of my 401 on some of the off-road stuff that you guys can really ways you can get involved, or some of the stuff that I kind of enjoy. If you guys have any questions, you can post them up now, or I'll try to skim through real quick. I know there's some other questions in there. Corey, I cannot confirm or deny those allegations. Charles, not a big block. I'm staying with my LS. I love it. What is the gnarliest wreck you've been on? Probably a Southern Rock Racing Series wreck. Probably one of my Southern Rock Racing Series wrecks is probably one of the gnarliest rollers I've ever been on. I rolled over to a monster truck show one time, and it knocked the wind out of me because it was hard packed like concrete. It did not forgive at all. Although, as far as wrecks, I would say, that's probably one of the roughest things I've been. Let's see who else in there. What's up, Michael? I see you in there. You in the tub? No, I'm not in the tub. Yeah, what's up, Cody Rogers? I see you in there. Jay Storts. I gotta give a shout out to Jay Storts. Jay Storts this year has absolutely crushed it. He came out and was like, he bought a rock bouncer and wanted to be like us. He said, I want to be a rock bouncer guys like you guys. I was at a race this year. We were at Dirty Trail Off-Road Park this year, and the first hill was obviously just a straight-up 10-foot wall. It was just a straight-up vertical challenge, and there was absolutely no way anybody was going to climb that thing just by coming up and just sticking it. And Jay Storts was the first guy to say, you know what, I may not be, but I'm going to give her all she had. He backed up and hit that hill with everything he had in it. And I was standing there talking to a couple guys. He hit that thing, did a complete somersault, and just buried the nose of his buggy in the ground, broke the shocks off the front, tore the whole buggy up. And I told 3 or 4 people standing on with, I said, he hit that hill like all of us want to, but we might not have the guts to hit it like that. So shout out to Jay Storts because he came out and absolutely stinking crushed it this year. Got awesome experience, and I am so excited to see, so excited to see what you're doing in 2020 because obviously you picked up awesome. I know there's some other guys coming out with some cool mods, and I know there's obviously Tim's gonna have a new chassis. Bacon Family's coming out swinging. I know they're working on some stuff. There's several other guys that are changing some chassis or adding chassis. I know that Justin Holtz, Reject Fab. I know there's a couple guys over there that I've seen some stuff for sale, so I'm sure they're going to come out and shake some things up. I know they like to play. Timmy Swartzen's out there. He always comes up with something ornery and fun, but yeah, it should be a pretty good time. So yeah, if you have any questions about anything like off-road related or about getting in the off-road community, you can just shoot me a message at the High Society Off-Road page, or you can shoot at my personal page, either one, and I'll try to get you guys answered. And as always, whatever you do, do it 100%. Peace out!